The stormy weather, it's ramping up across our area, and it's only going to get more active over the next few days. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather. Great to see you on a Wednesday. I hope you're doing well. As I often ask my wife, what can I do to make your experience here more pleasurable? Let me know in the comments section below. And honestly, I hope you're doing well. We'll talk about some very stormy weather across their area. Heavy rain, severe storms, really gusty winds, which is going to set up to get even more active as we push closer to the weekend for a vast majority of our area. So as we get the video started, as always, Meteo Mundo, sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. If you've been in a storm, hail damage, hurricane damage, wind damage, they're there to walk you through every step of the insurance claim process, offering free consultation and policy reviews. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Again, I want to hear from a Meteo Mundo weather community. Drop in the comment section below what's been happening. We'll get right into what's been going on across our area on this Wednesday. We'll start up in the Bahamas. A lot of active weather again for today for portions of the northern Bahamas, especially the Abacos back towards Andros, Nassau, New Providence, Eleuthera, the Berry Islands. Multiple severe thunderstorm warnings across these areas on this Wednesday afternoon. This is the live radar out of this area. You can see the hefty storms right now pulling right through the northern sides of Andros. Earlier this afternoon, we had some really heavy rain and storms over the New Providence area. Those have kind of drifted off towards the east, hit Eleuthera pretty hard towards Dunmore Town, again, southern sides of Abaco and the Berry Islands. Main threats were some winds of over 60 miles an hour, but there were some water spouts being reported and just some really stormy weather. But some of this has been very beneficial, especially for some of the wildfires that have been happening in portions of the northwest side of the Bahamas. So my friends who live in this area, let me know in the comments section below how you guys are handling things, and I hope things are going well for you at this point in time. But again, these storms will continue to persist in these spots at least through the late afternoon hours of this Wednesday. They should try and push a little bit farther off to the south. Just like yesterday, we're going to get storms firing up off the Cuban mainland and making a run north and east to the central and portions of the southeast Bahamas. You can clearly see this moisture feed that's beginning to tap in. So for the Acklins, Mayaguana, on over towards Turks and Caicos, we're going to get the opportunity here to get some passing showers. If nothing else, we'll build in some cloud coverage, but should be enough tropical moisture to throw in a few showers in the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos later today. Now again, the interesting thing that's already setting up, look at our monsoon trough just activated in the eastern Pacific. I'll have a lot more about this spin coming up when we kind of look at the forward-looking tropical outlook. But again, we're streaming in moisture now back into the western sides of the Caribbean, which is going to spell at least some showers for Nicaragua towards Honduras, portions of Guatemala and Belize. Again, some of this might actually develop inland and work its way northeast. We still could have a sea breeze kick in and provide some showers along the Belize, Guatemala, northern Honduras coastline, but some of this activity might actually also try and move from west to east for today as well. Going to also try and stream in the opportunity for a couple of showers across the Cayman Islands. Again, on this infrared satellite imagery, you can see some higher cloud tops building over Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac, at least for time to time. It's really interesting. I mean, look how narrow this moisture stream is. We're going to get the opportunity that some of this could try and sneak into the western sides of Jamaica as well. When I bring on the visible satellite imagery, you guys can clearly see that. And now we're starting to get a few lightning strikes here in the central portions of the island, again towards the Mandeville Maypen area, so Clarendon, Manchester parishes. I would favor southern and western areas for the showers and storms on this Wednesday. Montego Bay, Cambridge, South Lamar, Negril, Lucy areas, Mandeville, Maypen. Still can't rule out some showers near the Kingston area. The entire island has an opportunity, but if we're going to be a little bit more concentrated, it should be southern and western sides today, a little bit closer to this moisture. That's a very interesting scenario here, and it's really made me look at what's the opportunity for rain coming up in Jamaica over the next few days. I'll let you know in the forecast coming up here in just a couple of minutes as well. Temperatures on the board for you right now. Not horrible, upper 80s to right around 90 Fahrenheit. That's going to be, 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius in most spots. Bring back all the wind gusts and we'll swing our way over towards Hispaniola. It's a wetter day today overall. Start to see deeper moisture begin to move back into the area here. Still a little bit more isolated than what we've had. We're just beginning to get some lightning strikes develop just off of the northeast coastline here from Santiago de los Caballeros, just east towards the Samana Peninsula, but mainly inland locations north of Santo Domingo. These showers and storms become a little bit more widespread later in the afternoon and into the evening. And again, multiple areas could get very heavy downpours. Got to still watch out for some isolated flooding. Some landslides and mudslides will continue to be an issue. We're seeing a few showers and storms cropping up across portions of the British and U.S. Virgin Islands at Puerto Rico at the hour. Look at these winds when they tap on. Still a very gusty day, 25, 30 plus mile an hour winds here. And again, a little bit of a reprieve from some of the heaviest rain yesterday and today. This is the live look to the radar. Look, there's still a fair amount of rain out here. Nothing is extremely concentrated, but scattered showers from Aguadilla to Utialto, Arecibo, on over towards Barranquitas, San Juan, Fajardo. We follow that towards Vieques and Culebra. Nice string of showers right now over St. Thomas and St. John towards Jost Van Dyke, the Roadtown Tortola area. Again, St. Thomas right now, nice little 30 mile an hour breeze. So good tropical downpours coming in. But my friends in these areas, you got to get ready for even more rain coming in, and I'll have more on that coming up in just a second. But again, fairly wet day across this area. Let's continue our tour. We'll work our way into the Lesser Antilles, where again, fast-moving scattered showers are likely. Small craft advisories are up for Puerto Rico. Small craft advisories are up for the Virgin Islands and the northern side of the Lesser Antilles as well. And again, this is the infrared satellite imagery. I'll go back to the viz. We've had some passing downpours for today. Maybe not as widespread farther north, but if you've had some of this heavy rain, let me know. And many of you commented in yesterday's videos across the Lesser Antilles how wet and stormy and flooding it was in some areas. Again, especially some of the islands that have higher terrain, more flood prone landslides, mudslides, it's been an issue. We'll follow this down towards Antigua and Montserrat and Guadeloupe. You can see this shear line right over those islands, thick cloud coverage, the opportunity for some good downpours today. Guadeloupe, Dominica with a 25 mile an hour wind, Martinique, Barbados has had some passing showers, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. You know, again, it's been somewhat concentrated in some areas, but still overall a little bit more in the scattered variety here. But there is still ample moisture in this area. We still have this shear line in place. There's even been a few rumbles of thunder out there and trying to redevelop some rain at the hour towards Trinidad and Tobago. Mainly dry so far in Nueva Esparta. We've been basically dry in the ABC Islands as well. Temperatures have been warming up back into the lower 30s Celsius. Curacao had a 26 mile an hour breeze as well. But look, obviously, we're getting more active overall, and all of this moisture, which is situated with our monsoon trough and our area of low pressure off of the western side of the Colombian coastline, which is bringing all the heavy rain and storms to Panama and Costa Rica for today, will be very active weather for us. Bermuda will also get some showers and storms coming up over the next 24 hours. And again, we've had some wind as well. So let's get into the forecast. As we do so, appreciate my Meteo Mundo weather community hitting that like button for me right now. Help support the channel. If you haven't subscribed, join the best Caribbean community across the YouTube platform. Hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for sharing this with your family and friends. Appreciate all those who find ways to support the channel as well. You want to support me in another way, remember, I do have another channel. It's called Weather Express. It is a 5-minute United States forecast. So I quickly go through all the big highlights of what's happening across the United States, all the severe weather threats. If you would like to support the channel, and it's a new channel, and I really appreciate that support, you can find a link to that channel in the video description below here of Meteo Mundo. All right, so let's get into the forecast, friends. We are going to continue to see rich tropical moisture stream into the area. It's already showing up. You can clearly see how we're tapping into the monsoon trough in the eastern Pacific. This is only going to get wetter as it begins to interact, a little bit too far here, Rusty, as it begins to interact with this trough that'll be diving south and east. When that moisture hits this instability, man, oh man, is the shower and storm chance just going to bloom over the next 3 to 7 days across portions of the greater and the lesser Antilles. There's going to be a lot of areas where we're going to be talking about for the next week ahead the opportunity for some extremely heavy rainfall. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to get into the forecast over the next 3 days. I'll take you island by island. Then we're going to extend it out, look at that heavier rain, and then talk about the tropics as well. Of course, you know, as we get deeper into May, we got to think about the opportunity here for how things could be evolving in that feature and fashion as well. So again, we'll bring up the models And the first thing I want you to notice is just how wet overall it's going to be, but especially for the areas that I've already mentioned here. Again, as this moisture coming in from the southwest hits that instability, look at this huge blossom. There is going to be a bit of mid-level spin here, but there's just going to be a lot of tropical moisture. Again, this time of the year, this begins to evolve. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a tropical depression or a tropical storm. It certainly doesn't look like that. But this is a tropical disturbance, which is clearly defined as simply being an area of showers and storms, tropical in nature. And that's what we are going to see. It's going to be a lot of rain. Some of that it's going to be heavy. We're going to have to start talking about the potential for some flooding in some of these spots, very gusty conditions, very poor boating conditions as well. So let's start off in kind of the western areas of that's going to be the most impacted by this. And then we'll work our way east and south and talk about other areas as well, from Turks and Caicos, but especially over Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We got to get prepared for more wet weather. Look, the rain chance is going to be exceptionally high, especially beginning on Friday, at least through Saturday. This may be an area that has 2 days of very heavy rain, and thankfully no more than that, but you can clearly see the amount of moisture that the GFS model is painting over especially the Dominican Republic. So again, we'll have to watch out for daily rainfall totals, several inches, 50 to 100 millimeters in some spots, locally heavy rain, landslides, mudslides, all the issues that come. And remember, we've had some wet weather lately as well, so that's not going to help things. The soil is still relatively wet in some spots, so the river levels are still high, streams, creeks, all of that. The low-lying areas have collected a lot of water lately. It's the same situation for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but kicked up a notch, because it could be 3 days of very heavy rain moving across this area. Aguadilla, San Juan, Fajardo, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, Virgin Gorda, Anegada, Yost Van Dyke. Get prepared for a very wet weekend ahead. Very high rain chances. There will be some embedded deep tropical moisture, so heavy downpours. Obviously, there'll be some thunderstorms coming along for the ride and very gusty winds. I mean, it's just going to be very wet outside, but there'll be pockets of heavier storms and gusty winds as well. It'll be the same situation for the Leeward Islands. I don't really care where you are in the Leeward Islands. I've got your rain chance exceptionally high. Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, towards Guadeloupe. That'll be about the southern extent of where I think the heaviest and highest rainfall totals are going to be, but still exceptionally wet across all of the Lesser Antilles, but really concentrated here in the Leeward Islands. When we go a little bit farther south, Dominica, Martinique, towards St. Lucia, even St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados, look, it will be more scattered in nature tomorrow and Friday, right? But when we get into the forecast for Saturday and then Sunday and beyond, the rain chance in these areas only go up and up as well. As a matter of fact, the Barbados Meteorological Service is already talking about how wet Sunday could be, and I agree with them. I mean, we're going to start to be inundated with more water here in portions of the Lesser Antilles on the south side and the Windward Islands in general. We'll follow this through Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago should also start to see better rain chances and a better chance for more locally heavy rain as well. That's the other thing I want to pass on, is all of this area not only will see high rain chances, but a better opportunity for locally heavy flooding rains. Scattered showers over Nueva Esparta, but nothing too organized until maybe later in the day on Saturday. ABC Islands still relatively isolated through at least Saturday. I've kind of had to back up the time frame a little bit looking at the latest model data, but I still think, relatively speaking, the weekend could be fairly wet in Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, especially on Sunday. Again, we have ample moisture. Flooding rains are ongoing right now in Panama and Costa Rica. That should not change much anytime soon. It's going to be an interesting scenario for Nicaragua and Honduras and areas north. I mentioned this in yesterday's video. If we start to get a circulation developing here, which regardless if it becomes the first named storm of the Eastern Pacific season, which would be named Alvin, we would be on the northeast drier side, and the circulation would actually pull in some drier air. So actually, when you get towards Tegucigalpa north, towards the Bay Islands, Belize City, Chetumal, Tulum, Cancun, and Cozumel, the forecast here is actually pretty dry over the next several days, not a lot of rain. An area where I think it's going to be extremely interesting about the rain totals is going to be Jamaica, because we're right on the fringe of seeing that moisture wrapped up to our north and to our east. But again, we're kind of in that moisture plume that's already developed. So I think we're going to get rain and a few storms every afternoon. But, I am curious as to how much we're going to end up getting in some spots. There could be some locally heavy rain, but I still don't think it's going to be very widespread. It'll be more isolated in nature. There'll be many dry hours and locations in Jamaica, but overall the rain chance won't be horrible. I think it's isolated rain for the Cayman Islands, and we will begin to dry out through most of the Bahamas after today. Certainly not going to have any severe weather threats for the next few days here, but generally speaking, all the way from Grand Bahama to the Acklins, drier conditions will prevail. We'll start to see some good rain move into Bermuda today, and then see drier conditions coming in as we get into, the rain coming in tomorrow, for Bermuda, and then the rain chances begin to fall off a bit as we get into Friday and Saturday. So here is those island by island rain chances. They look like this. Still 30% chance tomorrow, northwest and central and southeast Bahamas, but falling to be very isolated Friday, Saturday. Isolated to scattered in Turks and Caicos and Cuba for the next 3 days as well. Again, not a huge chance of rain over the Cayman Islands. Belize City will be fairly dry. Hopefully a little bit of rain to break some of the heat in some spots. Cancun and Cozumel, it's a brief shower at best. I've got 30% chance in Jamaica. Again, didn't really want to go higher than that, but there will be some rain and storms across the island each and every afternoon. Again, southern western parishes, maybe a little bit more favored. All right, Dominican Republic, 60 tomorrow, best chance Friday at 80, then slightly lower, but still 60 on Saturday. Look at Puerto Rico's rain chances the next 3 days. 70 tomorrow, 90 Friday, which I could have made it 100, and an 80% chance on Saturday. U.S. and British Virgin Islands will stay wet and stormy as well, 80% chance Friday, Saturday. Bermuda, a 40% chance tomorrow, then drier Friday into the weekend. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, heightened rain chances each and every day, and it's becoming more of a possibility for heavier and higher rainfall totals beginning Friday and especially Saturday into the weekend. Antigua, Barbuda, up to 90% chance on Saturday. Same thing for Montserrat. Guadeloupe has an exceptional rain chance as well. Still very solid in Dominica, building to a 70 on Saturday, 40, 50, then 60 in Martinique, 50 to 60 across St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Again, could there be a little bit of a lull, if you will, on Friday? It's a possibility, but overall, there's just going to be a lot of moisture in play in the Lesser Antilles. So, Barbados will have fast-moving showers the next couple days, and then back to a 70% chance for rain on Saturday. Grenada's rain chances build. So do Trinidad and Tobago. Just a very wet forecast. Suriname and Guyana, very high rain chances the next 3 days as well. More isolated in Nueva Esparta, and again, should be building rain chances. Look, it's not going to surprise me if the ABC Islands don't get much rain through Friday, but hopefully we'll pack a little bit better punch for some showers on Saturday. Now, with all of this rain comes some heightened seas as well. So again, a lot of small craft advisories. Mariners are urged to check in with kind of the local governments and what might be happening in your area to get the local forecast. But generally speaking, I would expect some swells coming into the Lesser Antilles of around 2 to 3 meters or 6 to 9 feet. We don't have the strong wind and large wave advisory right now for Jamaica. Small craft advisories are up for Puerto Rico, and that could also be the case for portions of the exposed waters of the Turks and Caicos and into the eastern Bahamas as well. Those are all areas where I think we're going to have wave heights become an issue. Now, again, we're drier in our northwest areas, but when I step to this side, look at the European model rainfall totals built in over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and into early next week. You are looking at maybe 6 to 8 inches of rain in some areas. Now, does it fall over the islands? Does it stay in the Caribbean or in the southern sides of the Atlantic? We'll see how this plays out, right? But the bottom line is that it's going to be wet. It's not going to shock me if some spots get more than 8 inches of rain between now and say next Tuesday or Wednesday, which is more than 200 millimeters in some locations. That kind of wet weather continues for Costa Rica and Panama. But I mentioned you don't go much farther north in Central America, and there's really a big cutoff with the opportunity because, again, drier air is coming in with that more of the northeast breeze the farther north that you go. And you can clearly see that on the GFS model. So I just showed you the European model. We always like to compare and contrast here. This is the GFS model. So again, just over the next 5 days, look at some of these healthy totals. Now with this product, we can literally query individual plot points here. And so I just wanted to kind of bring this on and show you guys this. Again, with this, we average. So the interesting thing is, does some of these 4+ inch rainfall totals actually go over land, or do they stay offshore and we get more like 2 to 3? But I want to be clear about this. I fully think overall, we're going to get the higher end of all of this. The GFS sometimes has a little bit of a difficulty when we're talking about exceptional tropical downpours, but that's what we're going to get. You notice again that the rain totals will be higher here across the Leeward Islands in general. And again, we're going to see some spots that will get more than 4 inches of rain in the next few days. A lot of this could easily be just over the weekend as well. And as I've mentioned, eventually the Grenadines, St. Vincent, Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, all with very high rainfall totals coming. I mean, just over the next 4 or 5 days, look at these totals. And I still think we're underdoing it in a couple of spots. Again, scattered rain in Nueva Esparta, not as much rain in the ABC Islands, but we should get a few showers, especially Sunday, maybe into Monday. And again, we dry out in the Bahamas. As I mentioned, Jamaica's interesting, western, southern side, so you can clearly see like we've got much more rain and towards the Black River area compared to Kingston, but you know, everyone gets in on the act. We get a few showers there, relatively dry in the Cayman Islands, and again, not a lot of rain as you get to the northern sides of Honduras, Belize, and portions of the rest of Quintana Roo. But these areas, exceptionally wet. All right, so now let's talk about the extended forecast. The first thing I will do is we'll take out the rain model here a full week, and we'll look at that. Then we'll take a look at some of the wind and some of the spin in the atmosphere as well. This is not going away. As a matter of fact, it's only going to be energized by some mid-level energy coming out of the far southwest Atlantic, kind of just streaming up, south winds feeding into this. And friends, take a look as we get into next week. Nothing really changes. You're talking about an exceptionally wet, if this verifies, GFS model, European model, we showed you the rainfall totals out of these. If this verifies, look how wet this could be here across the Eastern Caribbean over the next full week, all the way out until next Wednesday. So we really need to start to get prepared for what could be some very heavy rainfall over the next week in some of these areas. And again, flooding rains are going to be a concern, especially if this really plays out the way the GFS is showing. Now, we start to see this spin here. Does this become a low-level spin? We'll have to see that. Could we get the first name storm of the Pacific season on the Eastern Pacific side next week? It's a possibility, but you know, it's going to have some influence to our weather. It does look like the center of circulation will stay south into the Pacific rather than the southwest sides of the Caribbean here. But let's take a look at the vorticity spin, the profile for that. So I'm going to bring up this. This is going to be your composite spin in the atmosphere at the lower levels. Now, again, it's not surface based, meaning that it's not actually at the surface, but is a composite of the lower levels. And a couple of things I want to point out to this, right? You can see the first mid-level spin that develops north of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, east of Turks and Caicos. Here comes your secondary spin here, which feeds into all of this instability and just keeps things on the wetter side. Again, these are tropical disturbances, right? Very active weather, tropical in nature. They're not organized enough to become depressions or tropical storms. You're not going to have the tight, close, low-level center of circulation or the tight wind field, but you're going to have broad 25 to 35 mile-an-hour winds and a heck of a lot of rain. That is what this kind of environment can do. You can clearly see the spin here. Again, does it reach the low levels of the atmosphere? We will see. Couple of mid-level spins in the Southwest Caribbean, but I don't think that they're going to be of any big nature. And you see that the flow here through the Bahamas, Cuba, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and into the northwest portions of the Caribbean is almost kind of out of the northeast, right? Not as much moisture to play with there, but there's a heck of a lot of spin here. And I mentioned that wind field, and I think it bears showing you guys that as real quickly. So this is surface-based winds, okay? I want you to look for the areas in purple because those are going to be winds of greater than 20 miles an hour. And I want you to notice how large that wind field is going to be. Now, if we were to see a little bit of a rotation, you know, it would show up on this at the surface. That's not the case here. But again, if I just zoom into the Lesser Antilles and we let this model run out for the week ahead, do you guys see, and these are sustained winds and not gusts, by the way, do you see how we stay in that 20, 25, 30 mile-an-hour winds throughout the entire period? And again, is there just a little bit of a kink in some of this so you get a little mid-level spin to lift the atmosphere and the moisture and enhance the rainfall? Absolutely. Again, is this going to become anything, you know, tropical depression wise or anything like that? Doesn't appear to be that organized. But rich, deep tropical moisture will spell a heck of a lot of rain in these spots for the week ahead. It's something to keep a very close eye on. Friends, I appreciate you guys. Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, or across all social media. You want to send me a picture or video, and it's getting more important as we get closer to hurricane season, as the weather gets more active. Help me tell the weather story in your area. myMediaMundo@gmail.com. I appreciate those who do. Again, send me a picture or video. Include your name, obviously where it's from. You want to give me a description as well. I appreciate that. You have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below as well. And remember, Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. Anything that can impact you or your property, so hail damage, hurricane damage, you've been in an auto accident, they'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Friends, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the channel. Have a great, safe rest of your Wednesday. I'm back tomorrow with the latest forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas right here at Meteo Mundo.